What's poppin'? It's your boy Janto here, and if there's one sport I love and one sport I've been playing pretty much my whole life, it's probably basketball. And in Japanese, obviously they call it basket, or in Filipino they just call it basketball. Seriously, if you guys didn't know, I'm like 6 feet tall, so you have no idea how many times an uncle comes over, or it's like a party with a bunch of family, and all the uncles ask me if I'm still playing basketball. But as you all know, I am a NEET, and kind of, haven't played basketball, at least, in a league or anything like that for a long time. I guess sometimes I still play, casually with my friends and all that, but don't really take it seriously anymore. But I still love the game of basketball, and I still love watching the game of basketball. If there's one thing that could actually take me away from the world of anime, it's definitely the NBA. And all the basketball is going on right now. The conference finals are here. The NBA finals are around the corner. But considering that this is still an anime channel, first and foremost, I would like to talk about one anime I think has been super underrated this season. And of course, I am talking about Ahiru no Sora. And so, with the NBA Finals around the corner and with Ahiru no Sora about to end with its 50th episode, season finale, I thought, why not talk about it? And why not talk about it and compare it to the most widely known and recognized basketball anime? Not manga, because to be completely honest, I do think Slam Dunk is probably still the most recognized basketball manga, but the most recognized basketball anime, which is of course Koroko no Basket, or Kuroko's Basketball. And talk about why exactly they're actually really different. Despite both being basketball animes, they're actually two very different basketball animes in style and plot and characters and a lot of that. So I thought, why not talk about that in this here video? Alright, let's get going. So I think the biggest difference between Ahiru no Sora and Kuroko no Basket, and obviously, honestly, the most noticeable, is the stylization and the way basketball is presented. Anyone who watches Kuroko, and anyone who actually plays basketball who's watched Koroko, will say this: it is incredibly unrealistic. Seriously, they have crazy shonen type superpowers in Kuroko no Basket, and there's literally not a lot of things presented in Kuroko actually happens. Even in the NBA at a professional level, pretty much no one could do what a lot of other people do in the NBA. Probably the only things I've probably seen that are accurate is, I've seen like Lonzo Ball pull off like some Kuroko type plays with misdirection, and I think the zone, which is actually also presented in Ahiru no Sora, which we'll talk about later, I think that's accurate. If you play basketball, I think you could definitely notice it. But a lot of the other stuff, like Midorima, like pulling up from full court, and Kisei perfect copy, I don't think I've never seen anyone do something like that in the NBA. Maybe like once or twice. I was actually watching the Lakers game, and the announcers were talking about how Caruso, was using a lot of moves that famous legends were doing. Like they're talking about like finger roll from George Gervin, and the blocking like someone else. So I think something like that might happen, but no one has like superpowers that they could use on like a daily, regular basis in game, in like the NBA like they do in Kuroko. Now Ahiru no Sora, I think, is much more grounded and has a much more accurate portrayal of basketball and how it's played. And a lot of the techniques that you can compare to like Koroko, like special techniques, I've actually seen done a lot, in basketball, or like in special cases, like the elbow pass Chiaki pulls off when he first plays, with the team. That was actually a move that was popularized by Jason Williams when he still played in the NBA. When you fake going behind the back and you actually tip it with your elbow. Now, obviously, I haven't seen that done in a long time in the NBA, but I think seeing moves like that definitely shows that there's a lot of influence, probably from a lot of famous players in the NBA, and just watching. And there's not like any crazy like shonen type superpowers. A lot of the techniques like pull-ups and fadeaways, double clutches, alley-oops, and reverse dunks, things like that in the show, it is very accurate, and you do see it a lot in the NBA. So I think that's definitely the biggest difference between Kuroko no Basket and Ahiru no Sora. You know, Ahiru no Sora is much more grounded and realistic, you know, compared to Koroko no Basket, which has a bunch of crazy visuals and shonen superpowers. Alright, so, you know, I think the second difference probably overall is definitely in the characters in Ahiru no Sora and Koroko no Basket. In Koroko no Basket, it has very similar characters, I'd say, probably compared to Haikyuu. You have seniors, you know, who are good at the game at a fundamental level. They have their own unique quirks, but they're not good enough to reach the national level. They just need one more piece. And obviously, that's where Kagami and Koroko come in. The two freshmen, you know, who have seriously like shonen superpowers, and with their abilities, they're able to make it, you know, to like a national level, you know, and eventually, you know, like they win the Winter Cup. Very similar to Haikyuu with like Hinata and Kageyama coming to Karasuno. And, you know, in Ahiru no Sora, you know, I've probably never seen this in sports anime, but, you know, I haven't watched a lot of them, to be honest, although I do really enjoy them. But the characters and the plot are very different compared, you know, to Koroko no Basket. And, you know, they have the whole inter-high, trying to go to nationals thing. But the thing is, in the beginning, the only person who actually wants to play basketball is the main character, Sora. And the basketball club at his school is pretty much full of delinquents. They, you know, the only one who's ever played basketball are the two Hanazono brothers, Chiaki and Momoharu. But they both quit, you know, in middle school. And the rest are just delinquents who've never even played basketball. Sports aren't taken very seriously at their school. But despite that fact, you know, eventually, you know, they end up meeting other characters. They join the club and they become a team. But the thing is, I think the most interesting fact about Ahiru no Sora is that while it's airing, and you know, the final episode does come out next week, you know, they haven't even won a game yet. Every game they played, you know, I don't know if it's like a spoiler or not, but, you know, with the whole pacing and the tone of it, I think it's pretty obvious that the team is newly built. Like, half the team hasn't even played basketball, but that despite that fact, they still struggle, and they still want to reach, you know, nationals one day through all their motivations. I think the characters and the plot, you know, much different from any high school anime I've ever watched. You know, a lot of the characters, you know, you see in like typical, you know, the most popular high school sports anime. You know, they're very dedicated. They've been playing the game like their whole lives. But, you know, you don't see that a lot in Ahiru no Sora. Really, the only person you see that from is Sora, the main character. But, you know, he brings all these people like together, and, you know, eventually one day they want to strive and, you know, reach the top. I think that's definitely a big difference between Ahiru no Sora and Koroko no Basket. So, this is an anime channel, but the NBA Finals are around the corner, and it does look like the Lakers and the Heat will be in the finals. At least, you know, the Heat-Celtics Game 5 going on right now. Definitely going to get back to watching it once I finish recording this and editing this video, but I do think the Heat are going to win, and if you don't know me, Lakers fan for life, grew up watching Kobe, rest in peace. You know, absolute, you know, I love the Lakers. Been with them through the roughest times, you know. Robert Sacre, Jody Meeks. Yeah, that's right, I'm an OG fan. I ain't no bandwagon because of LeBron. But, you know, I hope the Lakers do win the finals. But who do you think is going to win the finals, you know? You put that in the comment section down below. But, you know, honestly, I really enjoyed making this video. Really just thought about it, you know, right now. But I really enjoyed Koroko no Basket. And, you know, I actually really have been loving Ahiru no Sora as well. And, you know, hopefully more basketball animes come out in the future that put, like, their own unique spin on the characters and, you know, how basketball is presented. But I think one thing that has to be said is that despite the fact that I said Ahiru no Sora is very grounded and, you know, has realistic, you know, style of basketball presented, basketball and anime and real life basketball is nowhere near similar. I think this should be said for all sports anime. Anime presents it in a very dramatized fashion. You know, you have a lot of inner monologues, a lot of, you know, like time freezing, you know, like they're thinking in their head, and, you know, time just stops when they're thinking in their head. You know, this will never happen, obviously, in a real game. You can't just be playing basketball and have, like, inner monologues while you're dribbling. Your ball's probably going to get stolen because of how confused you are, which has actually happened a few times in Ahiru no Sora, so I'll give them that. But real basketball, and really any real sport, is much more fast-paced than what anime presents, because there's no time stoppage or anything. Game just keeps going until you call a timeout, until you try to stop forward momentum that way. There's gonna be like no speaking, no thinking at least. Obviously, you'll be yelling out on the court, saying things like "I got ball" and things like that. But obviously, it's not gonna be like anime. I think that's the biggest difference to pick up from it. So whether or not it is grounded or not, I think it should be said that it isn't realistic in any way like that. Although I do give it props for how they portray it, because they do have a lot of realistic stuff. They do go over a lot of the fundamentals, and like I said earlier, half of the players on the team, they haven't played basketball anymore, so that allows them to explain the game, in a much more basic way so that the audience could understand it. I really appreciate that. But that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. With all this basketball going around, I thought it'd be a great, discussion for a video. But yeah, that was pretty much, how the comparisons between Ahiru no Sora and Koroko no Basket. And, I do really enjoy the anime. Like I said, I hope more basketball anime comes out in the future. And I am stoked towards watching, the conference and NBA finals. And, go Lakers. But anyway, that's all I want to say. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out. And of course, as always, bless upon Rieri.